Hello, listening people. It's me, Spooky Ryan.
And me, Bartek the Mummy.
Ooh, Mummy's boy Bartek is here.
Yep,
to tell you some facts about his mum. That's why he's Mummy Bartek.
That's right.
Any interesting facts about your mother?
Facts about my mother. My mother.
My mother.
She's recommended a film for the podcast, but we haven't picked it yet.
That's a fact. She's only ever recommended one film.
Yes, but she knows a lot about a lot of the films we do, and she hasn't seen them. For example, we once did a film called Rock the Casbah.
Oh, we also did a film one time called The Terminator, and that's the most she's ever commented on our social media posts I've ever seen. It was like non-stop.
I don't remember.
Oh, yes.
I know that's one that she
Bartek's
would.
mum, I remember. Your son doesn't. Divorce him. You're my son now. Okay.
But I know her birthday, though.
But do you know what we're here to do today, Bartek? Do you know what we're here to do today?
Wait, when you introduced yourself, you said Spooky Ryan, right?
That's my name.
I feel like...
That's my Polish name.
Not the Ryan part, but I think the spooky part's a hint.
Is there a Polish word for spooky?
I know the word for scary.
What is it?
Straszny. Straszny Ryan.
It sounds like a gun. I just loaded my...
I'm dual-wielding straszny.
No, it's dual-wielding scary. So, we're here to be both spitting and Polish. We're presenting a show, Pictures Powwow, during the month of October in the year 2022. And during our October episodes, except for when we first started, of course, we do, well,
Big Fat Liar.
Big Fat Liar was pretty spooky.
There was that trailer for, like, the really big foot.
And also, it had Frankie Muniz. That's spooky. But we talk about movies that fall on the more creepy side, horror side, thriller side, erotic side, perhaps, as well on the occasion. We go through those. We recommend a movie, or you do. And, this time round, it was you, the listening people out there, recommended a film. My sister recommended the film we'll be talking about today, called The Trip. At least that's what the English version of this is called. I don't think the original language version is called that, because just by sheer virtue of the title having a lot more words in it.
The Netflix subtitles mentioned what the translation of the title was, and it was some sort of euphemism of saying of, like, troubled times that you would use for, like, a marriage that's going through hard times, like in bad times or something like that.
Okay, why did they change it to The Trip? Why did they?
Because
that sounds awesome. Like, in bad times, that sounds awesome as an English.
It was something along those lines. It was at the beginning of the Netflix subtitles.
Well, either way, Bartek, could you give just a brief overview of what this film is about? Just give a tantalizing taste for those listening out there, because after that we're going to get into the spoilers of this movie, our history and relationship with it, our overall thoughts, the story, all of that. But could you just give a taster sample of what this is?
Sure. So I'll give a little bit of a synopsis for kind of what we're seeing at the beginning. We're introduced to a man named Lars. He's a director of a soap opera, it looks like, and we learn that he's also, in the entertainment industry as a director. I think also did some acting. And he's married to a woman who is an actress that is, she's been doing it a long time, but she's going through auditions now, kind of struggling to find roles. We're introduced to these two. They're married. They've got a bit of a dynamic going on where, a bit shaky, they're in love, but...
A very fraught relationship. Everybody knows about it.
Yeah, but despite this, they are going on a trip to his father's old, summer home or
old cabin in the woods.
Cabin in the woods near the fjords or whatever it was called. Just for, a couple of days just to relax. But he's secretly bringing all these tools, like a hammer, a saw, some duct tape. I think there was a rope, something blue.
A bag.
A bag, yeah. And it seems like Is this man planning to kill his wife? Because when he visits his dad, he's like, oh, she's going to go on a walk. It's really dangerous up there. It's like, are you foreshadowing something on purpose?
And they've got a very vile dynamic. And that is, well, where things are promised to go. And we'll have to see how it all unfolds. So people, go check out this film. It's on Netflix, at least here in Australia. I don't know about where else in the world.
Well, this is a Netflix-made
I don't know,
film or something like that.
I don't know how they work, because sometimes they say Netflix originals when we get things, but they're internationally made and they were just distributed
when I watched
on Netflix.
I didn't notice the Netflix original thing, but when I was reading up about it afterwards, I was reading that was apparently a Netflix-made film.
Okay, well, there you go. So it's on Netflix. Give it a watch.
And apparently in the last scene, there was like a Netflix, self-jab kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm. So, history of relationship, I didn't really know too much about this. My sister watched it one time and said, hey, you should check this out. It's pretty good. It's pretty funny. It's got some interesting things happening. Pitched it to me at that horror-y lens of a couple go out into the cabin in the woods and violence ensues. And I was like, oh, okay. So, okay, I'll keep that in the back of my mind. I'll add it to my watch list. And then, the months have gone on, and now we're getting to that time in the year where I go, look, I should pitch it for the podcast. And it seems like it's a horror film. The thumbnail on IMDb kind of gave me that feeling.
It was definitely dark.
In the horror section on IMDb. It's on IMDb and on Netflix, I should say. So I was in the mood, and I was like, okay, but I had a feeling it would be a little bit more whimsical, maybe a little bit funny. It's a Norwegian film. I've never seen a Norwegian film that I'm aware of. I'm not going to rule it out. But there was a few surprises along the way when I first turned it on. Let's just say there was a familiar face that I wasn't.
Okay.
And familiar for you, Ethan. So we'll have to talk about that. Bartek, history, relationship, and what did you think going in?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about it. It was another one of these where you recommended it last episode, hadn't heard of it. You mentioned that you'd been thinking about it for a while, and we found out it was only from last year. So so it's kind of a fresh film. And then as the week went on, it was another one of these cases where I'd forgotten the title, and then I went to previous episode's description, looked it up. I'm like, oh, yes, The Trip. There was something like that, and I remembered another thing I know called The Trip. So I'm like, oh, that's how I'll remember it. And I think maybe when I Googled it, and also when I first selected on Netflix, there was like a brief synopsis there. And it was one of those ones that kind of went into a bit more, like the next level of like spoilery detail than what I did, where it was like a couple is trying to kill each other on like a trip.
I didn't know that going in. Okay. I just had a feeling like some violence is happening in the cabin.
Yeah. So I walked in thinking like, okay, there's going to be, this kind of, we're following two despicable people who have some things going on. We'll learn about them, and then we're going to basically have like a back and forth, to compare it to a video game like Worms going on. Oh, it's my turn, it's my turn kind of thing.
So, the familiar face was our lead actress. That is, I do believe...
Lisa was the character's name.
Yes, who is played by, I do believe it's pronounced Noomi Rapace, who was the lead actress in Prometheus.
Oh, okay.
She was the lead actress in Prometheus and Alien Covenant. She's probably best well known for the original film versions of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo films.
Okay.
That is that actress. She's very talented, multilingual. She's done, I don't know how many different films and projects in other languages. I think she did a film recently for A24 called The Lamb or something, and like a big part of that was it's her first time doing a film in this language. So she's one of those working actresses.
Is The Lamb like an unsettling horror kind of film?
Yes, kind of. And it's like
I remember the trailer. It's like
a kid
lamb
is born
children.
with a kid born with a lamb head.
I think I saw the trailer for that.
And so she is one of those actresses that is in Hollywood, but also still keeping to the roots of working in European cinema. Like currently, she's in some episodes of that television series Jack Ryan, for instance.
Okay.
I'm just having a quick look over.
So she's a bit like a Mads Mikkelsen type.
Yeah, she was in Bright with Will Smith. She was in The Alien Covenant and Prometheus, those movies. And she does just random little smattering of stuff, like she was in this film called The Drop, which I do believe is a Tom Hardy movie, and I think it's like one of the last James Gandolfini movies, if I'm remembering right. But she is one of those actresses that's been around this while, especially in the European scene, and then started to break out here in the West and doing English language things. And she's just been a working person, so that's why I was like, oh, a familiar face. Okay. Yeah, that's right. She was in the second Sherlock Holmes movie. Yeah,
I've seen that.
Yeah, she was the.
I should look up her filmography to see what I'm most familiar with her, because I've seen both those films, Sherlock 2 and and
she was
Prometheus, but I don't remember.
She was
much.
like the fortune teller lady in the second movie, but she's mainly known for doing the girl with the dragon tattoo. She's the lead.
I know those. Okay, that's my mum fact. I remember she liked those films.
Yes, so. She was a familiar face, and I was so happy. I went, oh, okay, now I know I'm in safe hands, because she's a reliable person. I've never been disappointed by her. She's been in movies that have been disappointing, but she's always been very captivating to watch. She's a very striking look. And so going in, I saw that. I was like, okay, I'm at ease here. Overall, I liked this movie. I had a fun time. It had some bizarre and rather interesting twists and turns in the narrative and how it was told. It pissed me off at several points as well. Other than that, I thought this was a rather funny movie that actually was able to get dark rather sharply without souring the comedic tones that the movie was going for before and after those rather dark, twisted things. And those dark, twisted things that it does have in there, those more unsettling, those more horrific things, are not belittled by the comedy that this movie has. It does a great job, for my taste, of having a separation between those two, but not too vast of a one where it feels like I've tuned into a different movie now. So how did you fare with this?
Yeah, a lot of the things you were saying there, I also feel. Overall, I had a good time with it. I was engaged all the way through. I was hooked from the premise. I might have a bit more issues with the tonal shifts and certain shifts going on in the film, because this might be another one where something that was promised to me was kind of delivered, but I wanted a bit more of that premise to be throughout the film.
Yeah, see, I didn't know what I was getting in for, really. So I just kept taking it as it went, because it really was relentless with just throwing a new curveball at you. New curveball. Now we're going to flash back in time, and now we're going to have this character come in, and now we're going to have this, and now
for
these
a while,
people are going to fall from the roof. And,
and for a while I was like, oh yeah, I like how this is going. I like where this is going. And then this will go here, right? Nope. And then it kind of goes in a slightly different direction. I'm like, ooh, can we jump back a bit and retry maybe?
No. Well, we'll hear in a moment what those issues are for you. The premise is the husband and the wife want to kill each other in this cabin. They've both come up with their elaborate backstories and alibis and rationales.
Cover
stories, and they both ridicule each other for them, because of course they both find out at the same time, because, well, she's smarter than he gives her credit for, but then he's smarterer. So, and it goes on like that. I found myself rather questioning of the film, and I still find myself like this, where they build up that the wife is this unreasonable, manipulative, shrill, typical negative woman character. And yet, for the first act, I was really finding that lacking in terms of what you expect in a movie of this nature, where you have the wife that's always grilling him, because the film is really set up where he's already in the mode to kill her. So every little thing she does, he just is dialed up to 11 in response, but it just makes whatever she does seem very inconsequential because really she's not jabbing at him as much as you expect that she would, considering all the build-up, and we already know from just him putting the stuff in the back that he's probably going to go out there and kill her. So you're looking at it thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to get, say, to bring it back to our roots on this podcast, Bette Midler in Stepford Wives, where she was this loud, brash, no-nonsense, I'm just going to speak smack about you type of person. And so when she got Stepford Wived, it was really noticeable. Here, I found that to be I found myself seesawing on whether I agreed with how much or how little the movie was giving us in terms of that. You?
I was more on board with it because we should point out, even though this is a film where these two are our main characters that we're following, for a little while, like the first 15 minutes, Lars, the husband, is the main character. He's the one that we are seeing all these events from the perspective of. We know that he is the one that has a problem with his wife. He's got certain things about her. Yeah, and because this is a film and we're watching him, he's not talking to us, telling us, this is what I don't like about my wife. We're kind of getting it slowly there. So when we see like the little things that he's picking out on, you know, it's indicating to us that, okay, this is, you know, just a taste of what he's dealing with all the time. Like he has little mentions about, you know, what his wife does to prepare for roles, how she like has an image about her.
The blonde hair.
The blonde hair, and there's like little moments where like they snap back and it just indicates to us that like, okay, this can get much bigger. So, and obviously because we're still following it, we don't have all the answers. Like technically we don't 100% know he's trying to kill her, even though it's pretty obvious. So, you know, it kind of like with Burning, like, okay, let's not jump to conclusion. Let's see where this is going.
Yeah.
It's building up and there is going to be a reveal.
In a more traditional movie, and I don't know why I keep doing this, Bette Midler in Ruthless People, where Danny DeVito wants to kill her or kidnap her, you immediately know why, the dynamic. Here it is far more of a slow boil, far more of a quiet rivalry between the two, where yes, even though they're snapping at each other, it's what is the history and the fragmentation and Diego and all of that you get from this. And I just had a teetering thing because at no point during the first act did I ever feel any little bit of sympathy or drive for Lars when he's doing all of this. I'm like, I get it. This is like what you have to do for the movie's sake. Yeah. But there was never a moment where she went so over the line where I was like, you know what, Lars? I kind of get it. It was every time I'm like, Lars, you're a little turd. You're such a little turd. And then the movie agreed with me throughout most of its runtime. It was like, actually, Ryan, you're right. He is a little turd. Look at him kiss those shoes. So there was that where I was like, getting a handle on the film, like how much am I actually supposed to be seeing things through Lars's view and going, okay, yes, I can understand why this character has been driven to the point that they are. No, I just didn't get that as much. Like the closest I got was maybe the comments about him being a director and fucking up his own movie and all that. I'm like, okay, I understand that a little bit. I think the biggest moment of tension between the two was when they were playing crossword.
Scrabble,
yeah. And she wanted to do Swedish, wasn't it?
Yeah, Swedish word.
A Swedish word, and that makes sense because Noomi Rapace is Swedish. So and just the back and forth about that, but he was being the big asshole in that scene. So I was like, How did you feel when it came to Lars, especially in that first act, where the film is so slowly presenting itself to you and perhaps wanting you to see things from a certain angle?
I mean, it's kind of like what we were talking about in Very Bad Things, where this is a character who's trying to kill someone. They clearly have their own issues going on. They're not clearly supposed to be likable, so you know, I don't necessarily have to sympathize or empathize with him. Just understand, like, okay, what is this character? Okay, he doesn't like his wife because of this reasons. Okay, let's see what he does from here. So I didn't find it any sort of burden that, you know, I wasn't really attaching myself to him or her. Also, because I knew the synopsis that said, like, they're both gonna be doing something.
And again, I didn't know that. It's not about sympathy in terms of like actually, I get it. Like when you do watch these movies, you have to have some audience point of view where you go, okay, that comment that she made there. Now,
I had those moments, but it was like, oh yeah, I don't think Lars would like that. So let's see what Lars does from this. It's also a thing of like, because the film hasn't shown its hand yet, I'm trusting it.
What did you think of Lars though? Like, what did you think of him? Did you think he was like? Because for me, in the first act, especially, I was like, you're just such a pathetic turd. Like, I was not rooting for him. I was like, you're such a fucking piece of shit.
So, hold on, when we say the first act, that's up to what point do you reckon? Like,
when the guy comes in, like the guy that they first kill. I think that's when you kind of...
His accomplice. Mm-hmm. Okay, so when he's got her tied up.
When it's just them two. Yeah. When it's just them two.
Yeah, that's fair enough. What do I think of him? I mean, I because he was this kind of pathetic character, turd, as you keep saying, I thought that was good for the film because, like, again, not a sympathetic character. This is a character who is turning to killing, but as you say with pathetic, like, he has to take a drink and be like, come on, you can do this, you can do this. He's like nervously holding the hammer, just moments. Yeah. So, and again, this is a, dark comedy. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it does have a lot of serious moments, but it is a dark comedy. So there is, a comedic factor to the patheticness of this character.
There is, and the actor does it very well. He looks pathetic. He just, his stupid face, he has a stupid face.
I kept thinking he looked a lot like Bill Burr, but Bill Burr has a lot more confidence about him.
Yes. I can see how you think he looks like Bill Burr. He reminds me of this one... I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, but there's this one YouTube guy. I think he's a Scottish guy. He's got long red hair, but sometimes he's done some sketches with like a bald cap on, and he kind of reminded me of that guy. He did like a Star Trek like Star Trek TNG video, and he did that one that was like, what if Columbo was anime though? Where they did like the anime version of Columbo with all the illustrations and like even with the shoes off when they're walking into places, and it was very well done. But I can't remember that YouTuber. But yeah, I didn't know that premise. So when it turned around to her tasing him, it wasn't necessarily a true shock, but it was one of those where I go, this is going to be the movie. Because one of the things that didn't surprise me, weirdly, was the criminals falling from the roof. That did, but in terms of why didn't, I was expecting that there was going to be the thing where he's going to try and kill her and he's going to get interrupted by outsiders, which is something that does obviously happen with the other guy comes in and helps him out, and the dad later. There's a lot of... we're going to do the thing, but outsiders come in.
I think the term is comedy of errors.
Comedy of errors. Yeah. That's what I thought it was going to be. So I thought maybe the joke was going to be she's so selfish and vain and clueless that she wouldn't even recognize that he was trying to kill her throughout the movie, and that they were going to be invaded, home invaded by some outside force, and that they would have to be working together, but the dramatic irony would be that she doesn't realize that he also wants to kill her. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought the movie was going to be for that first stretch of minutes. And then when it presented that, we had her flashback where she was talking to her friend, and it set up the context of that. I was on the edge of my seat going, oh, okay, I'm on board. Yeah, also, now I like your character a lot, because I didn't have any bad feelings towards her character, but I was just like, oh yeah, she's okay. It's being brought, anything she had in that first section was being brought to life by the actress rather than the writing. But then that happened, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, she might have felt a bit more like a Jerry or a Roadrunner. It's like, oh, that's the target, but it's just so elusive.
As soon as she put a hat on and had a ponytail, that's when she became a great character.
I guess in a more blind viewing, I probably would have expected something a bit more like another couple would come by and like, oh, I'm going to spend some time here too, and that just makes his life a bit harder.
Or the old man.
Or the old man that we learn is there all along, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That would have been it. But yeah, I was genuinely taken aback by that, so that was a nice little thing, and seeing them just argue it out whilst also threatening to kill each other was very funny.
Yeah, the moments between the tasing and, the criminals falling through the ceiling really gave the film a boost, I reckon, because this is where we start seeing, like her side of the story. We get like, they're tied up. They're essentially in the interrogation seat. Like, now I can say anything. And this is where we start to see, like, okay, she's a main character too. These are the things that piss her off about him. And then we even get a twist on that later on where it switches somehow. And then we start getting his, like, unrestrained thoughts that we were already being clued into. And it's like, oh, okay, this is where the film's starting. And it's going to be, as you said, violence ensues.
Yeah.
Like a sort of like cat and mouse game where they keep changing who the cat and mouse is. Almost like a game of tag.
I really liked when that other guy came in.
Vince or Victor or something?
And Victor, I think. And he came in. That was a nice little moment. And I was thinking, oh my God, our main character Lars has really thought even further ahead with the... I initially thought, he thought maybe if she finds out, then this could be a thing that happens. But no, we find out otherwise. But it was a nice moment, though. Like, when he came in behind with a shovel, it made me perch up and go, oh my God, okay. Yeah, and even though the film didn't deliver on that oh my God that I was thinking in my brain, it didn't portray anything. Like, it wasn't... The reveal of everything wasn't a betrayal. It wasn't something so out of left field that I would roll my eyes in the fact that was an answer instead of what I thought the answer was. So it's a fine balancing act with that. Because sometimes, and we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, you get so into a movie or your understanding of a movie and then it's starting to reveal something and you go, oh, I think it's going to be this. And then it gives you something that's like way less interesting than what you thought it was going to be. And you're like, well, they didn't justify the other version as good as mine, so I like mine better. So, this didn't do that. This justified its own version of what I thought was going to happen with the guy coming in behind the shovel, where I initially thought, oh, Lars planned ahead thinking that maybe if she caught me in the act, this guy could help me. But no, that guy was just there to help him with the disposal process because he's too much of a fucking chicken to touch raw meat and shit.
Yeah. The whole like thing of like, oh, I thought this was what I was going to do. I had that with something else in the film, but with that character, yeah, it was all good because again, from that moment between the tasing and the prisoners falling through the ceiling, that's when we get the interrogation, and we have this really interesting thing where obviously the person who's tied up is the person, in the tense situation. But we have moments where, they retort to each other about like, and this was what my plan was going to be. Well, that's stupid because this. And we have that with both of them where, his plan was just, oh, she got lost in the woods and I didn't find her. And then she pisses herself laughing. I'm like, that's stupid. That would never work. And then she says her plan. He's like, you can't fool anyone like that.
And then by the end, proved otherwise.
Yeah.
But that was great because he then launched into, oh, by the way, everything that I've been nice to you about, I've actually been secretly an asshole about, and it's been funny to me that you believe me. See, I'm a better actor than you are. Yeah. You're bad.
And even beyond all, like, obviously there's a middle portion of the film where things play out very differently, but one thing that I did like in the ending was that in a very twisted way, this film ended up being like a sort of marriage counseling or like getting back together again kind of story, which, that's very dark comedy kind of sensibility, which... Yeah, but at the end of it, looking back, I really appreciated.
And then we get to what was spoiled for me, the prisoners falling from the roof, because the thumbnail on IMDb for this film is a picture of the villain.
Okay.
And I was like, wait, and I thought that was going to be our main character. I was like, oh, okay, the trip's going to be about this. He's the goofy husband guy with the big fat guy with the mustache and the scraggly hair. So I was waiting for him. I'm like, well, where's this guy going to come in? And then he falls from the rooftop. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's a part of, again, these weird little things when it comes to marketing. And again, I don't know, the filmmakers get to choose that. That's just Netflix. They update their thumbnails like 50 a week, it feels like.
Well, if it's Netflix, they were the ones who, when that Cuties film came out, they made the marketing that, sparked the controversy.
Oh, and what was it? Recently, the Dahmer miniseries about Jeffrey Dahmer the serial killer, they put it in the LGBTQI section of Netflix. Yeah, because he's a gay serial killer who killed gay men. It's like, maybe don't put it in there. Whatever. And they took it out because people were up in arms about it. But they fell from the roof, and the film looked at me in the eyes and said, hey, Ryan, hey, we're being smart now, huh? We're going to do a little flashback into this time period and show how these guys got into the house type of deal. And I have mixed opinions. Here's why I'm mixed. I like these characters. I found them very intimidating. I found their acting very good. I liked each criminal, what type they were. The big dumb muscle guy, the more menacing, physically imposing guy, and the mastermind, the leader, who seemingly is the most reasonable, but he's the most fucked up. I liked them. They were great additions, but and again, maybe a rewatch would alleviate this, but I do not think there was any hints or clues that they were in the house before they fell from the roof. I wonder if I went back, would there be any more like little things of like, oh, this window was left open, or they heard footsteps here but you disregarded it, or
there were a couple.
I just didn't really factor them in as strongly.
The ones that really stuck out were there were cornflakes on the ground. And like one of them notices like, what's this about? And then they kind of moved on. There was the line about the sweater being missing.
Oh yeah.
There was the keypad wasn't working when they tried to enter. There were just all these little things. Those are the three main ones that were just a little bit off.
Again, a rewatch will let me know, because again, I really didn't know what I was walking into here. So That flew by me, and I'm admitting that it flew by me.
They were little things that, I noted them when they happened, but I'd forgotten about them, and then when they were explained, I was like, oh, they foreshadowed this.
Okay, so I'll pull back on that comment then. But overall, this is where the movie takes a drastic turn.
Yeah.
Well, I should say it takes a drastic turn before when Lars kills a person.
That's true too, yes.
He decides to kill a person. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, so
he makes that decision. It's not as if the movie tries to. I mean, he tries to argue in the movie that no, you told me to. No, you see him. You see that actor. You see the character's face change and lock in and go, "This is what I've got to do."
Yeah. So he had an accomplice character with him because he's squeamish. He doesn't like raw meat, so he was going to get him to do the dirty work and give him what he claimed was half the life insurance money. And the wife, using her brain, was, trying to turn that character against Lars. So it was like a back and forth with this.
Because also Lars was lying to him about the amount.
Yeah. So he was this third element who was hired to be on one side, but then he was, being bribed and convinced that he wasn't being respected. And, he's the one holding the gun at that point. So it's a very tense scene where, there's this third element that they're trying to placate so that they can get whoever's plan going. And it just leads to, violence, and eventually Lars ends up killing him.
Yeah. And it was a very, it was a shift. Because from that point on, the Lars character has permission now from the film and us, the audience, to kill people.
Yeah.
That's important. That's important for later.
Yeah, his cover-up, he doesn't have a cover-up anymore. There's clearly a sign of struggle.
The moral compass is broken now for that character, so he has permission from us, the audience, to kill people because he has done that, and we saw him lead up to that. So that is something to note down, because that will be important for later, because he kills a lot of people.
And the second death doesn't happen until much later.
Much later, but it does happen.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. For a long time, he's the only one with an on-screen kill.
So is this middle section with these criminals where your issues come into play? I get a feeling like they've got...
pretty much right after their flashback ends, because one thing that the film was doing that I was really enjoying was that whenever like a little twist would happen, we would get like some time earlier, and we get like full context. So we learned that Lars planned out with his buddy, like, okay, this is what you're going to do. And that's explains like, oh, so that's why he turned up with a shovel. And then we learn that the wife had set up an alibi
and
with
a cover story.
And a cover story. It's like, oh yeah, we're going hunting. So when there's an accident,
I hate guns.
Yeah. And so when there's an accident, that woman would come up and say like, oh yes, I did hear about the hunting trip. That checks out. And we have one for the criminals. So the first time we see the criminals, tense situation, the husband and wife wrestling on the ground with a gun, fire into the ceiling, scream, 3 guys fall down on top of them, and it's like, who are these characters we've never seen before? Flashback to, like a day earlier, we learned their story and their dynamic. And during this flashback sequence, it's then only interacting with the 3 of them, and they've got very clear dynamics. We've got the guy who's clearly the leader, the Peter, I think his name was, Peter with 2 T's. We got Roy, the dumb neo-Nazi guy. And then we have Dave, who we don't really get too much about Dave in the flashback. He's a
sexual predator.
Yeah.
That's what we get, because he's looking at them through the roof and he's like, I want to fuck.
Yeah.
So that's an element about that character. Like,
yeah, he seems balanced for the most part, but he does have that, horniness to him at that one point. And we get basically a lot of comedy with them. So obviously Roy, the dumb one, he's the one who's eating the berries, and it leads to him needing to take a shit. It's like, oh, it's so stinky, Roy, why'd you do that? And just constant, kind of hijinks. And for the film up to this point, it's been a dark comedy where everyone has kind of gotten in on it a little bit. Like, we already had a dumb guy character with Lars's accomplice, and we had comedy with him where, we had the back and forth scene, the fact that he was going to do all the dirty work, and, the wife teasing him about, you got this dumb guy to help you? Are you an idiot? You're a big idiot. And so I thought, because this has been, such a comedy of errors film, going forward, there would be a bit more of a dynamic between our 2 main characters and these 3, where a lot more goofy things were happening. But then after their flashback ends and they're the ones in control, it just kind of turns into a home invasion film.
And it's played straight, is your problem.
And that first scene especially is played very straight.
Okay, so I think there's a visual thing that the film did or presented where I said, well, they've got this here. They can't be funny with these characters, which was when Roy took off his shirt and he was covered in swastikas and Nazi paraphernalia. I knew once we had that, it's like, oh, you can't just make these guys just goofy. You can't just do that. I don't know why my brain says that, but it is the case. It's just, you give that information across. I do not believe that once you do that, in this, especially for some reason in this film, I was like, okay, because there are still serious moments played straight in the movie before these guys show up. Some of the arguments between the husband and wife are played as dramatic scenes where these 2 actors are dramatically acting and there's no comedy there. So it's not as if it's been a complete comedy the entire run. There have been little moments.
Yes.
But once they showed me his Nazi tattoos and stuff of that nature, they didn't immediately kick into being serious with that, but it was a visual thing where I went, okay, they're going to have to play these guys a bit more straight-laced, because just something about that is just too villainous to have him as a goofy comedy guy, even though you could have had him as your obvious neo-Nazi type.
And also, we had 10 minutes of him being the goofy guy.
But we didn't immediately see his Nazi tattoos.
Yeah.
It took a little while for that. So I knew that was going to factor in. So once it turned into a more not generic, more just straightforward thriller home invasion film, I also recoiled a bit because they do a very effective job at it. That's the thing. It's very effective. I will give credit, though, to those actors. In that sequence, they ride the line very neatly, in my opinion, on reminding us of their more comedic sides whilst showing us their scarier sides, especially the Dave character, where he's the most unsettling threat because he's a rapist. That's the whole thing. And there's even some minor comedy in terms of dramatic irony where you think they're going to want to sexually assault the woman, but no, it's actually Lars, and that's played for comedic beats.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm gonna now fuck, and it's like, oh yeah, and maybe now she'll enjoy it, and then Petter goes, haha, okay, homosexual Dave, go, and immediately there's like, oh shit, it's going for the guy.
But then it goes straight back into the serious, and it's very unsettling. It's a rather dark chapter in the movie, and I can see why it's a turn-off, because you're having a fun time. Even though it's like violence, and people are dying, and they're threatening to kill each other, and then it introduces this, and it plays it rather straight. For especially that sequence. I would say after that, they get back into lightening those characters up a bit.
It's when everyone's down in that basement, and there's like the negotiations, and the like, well, still doing, and then the kiss my shoe.
Although, I did get some amusement, should say, from Lisa's reaction to all of this. That look on her face when it's like, oh, they want to fuck him? Awesome. Like, she goes to being horrified, but there's these subtle shots of her face where she's just like, oh, good, not me. Okay, cool. Like, just that little bit of humor of even in this dire strait of a thing, she's still in that I'm very annoyed at my partner and we're still feuding with each other mode. Only slightly. You could say they could play that up more for the comedy of it. Like, you get that played more seriously as it goes along, such as the very end where she's contemplating letting him go or not because she may still be pissed at him. But that's played straight. There are some moments, especially from her, where you see her contemplating just letting the horrible things play out because she's still in the I'm pissed off and in argument mode with my partner. And but yeah, I can see why that avenue of the film didn't work for you.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to, fault it for being, too dark or anything like that. I think it should be commended that they managed to make something very effective. But, what I walked in expecting, like, I saw this is going to be a 2-hour film. This is our synopsis of, like, husband and wife, back and forth at each other. And I didn't see in my head how that would work, but I was waiting to be, kind of be pleasantly surprised. Like, oh, they actually managed to stretch that out over 2 hours and have it be really entertaining. So it almost kind of felt like a crutch to fall back on home invasion plot.
Well, if you want to see this movie played dramatically, watch Antichrist by Lars von Trier. That's a movie you can watch, where it's a husband and wife try to hurt each other. It's less funny, but it's more in line.
Yeah. It wasn't like Trespass.
No, it wasn't like Trespass. But yeah, I can understand why you say it's a crutch because it is a familiar genre.
Yeah,
of criminals have taken over the couple, but I guess the twist is the couple are trying to kill each other and hate each other.
But at this point, that kind of goes away because even though you mentioned like there were these little moments of the wife still like being pissed at her husband, like I wasn't seeing as much of that. And a lot of it was, even though there were, little moments of like the husband didn't cut her ropes, he just left her.
That was an important moment.
Yeah, but going forward from that, whenever they were, free to move around and together, they, weren't still trying to kill each other or anything. They were trying to either to save themselves, but like not really to, try to kill the other in the middle of the chaos.
Yeah, well, it's a fine line because they're also, as you said, the story is about their mending of their marriage, so you have to have that.
And you mentioned before, like, way later in the film, after the villains have all been taken out, she's holding him, off the boat. It does come back there, where that felt like a very horror, thrillery thing. Like, now that all is said and done, do we go back to where we started, or do we move on? Like, that moment was great. I was expecting them to, get back together, and that's what did happen. But the tension there, I felt, was effective.
And earned.
Yes.
We get just a bunch of home invasion-y things where we see the characters figuring out how to escape, how to fight back. And this is where I have problems with it as well, where for a movie that was being rather flippant about the genre trappings that it could be in, then it started to just do them. As soon as our main guy Lars knocks out the big neo-Nazi with a bowl, with a pool balls in his sock, and then leaves the guy there with the knife, and doesn't kill him. Again, that's where it's like you've already established that this guy's willing to kill.
Yeah, and this
guy was about to help like get Lars raped. I do not believe that Lars would not like kill him.
You could probably even fake self-defense at that point, yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know.
Even from just a viewer standpoint, let alone in the lore of the like in the like reality of the movie it takes place in. And then when she gets the knife and cuts herself free, and then she leaves the knife, that's where you're losing me, movie, because that's where you're going into traditional horror crap nonsense. Because what happens? The big neo-Nazi gets back up, grabs the knife, and he's now a threat.
Somehow that all went over my head, but now that you're pointing it out,
Why would she do that? Because it's a movie.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a movie. We need her to be momentarily stupid. And I know, it's a comedy, but this isn't good enough. It's not like it's making a commentary about that, a comedic statement about that. It's just making her stupid. And again, to go back to my statements about earlier in the movie, she wasn't portrayed as the shrill, silly, dumbass wife character. She was far more restrained than that, far more competent. And then, like you said, we get her side of the story. So again, her leaving the knife there just to be a dumb character doesn't even line up with, say, if you did this in another movie, she's like the dumb housewife who doesn't know. No, I don't believe that.
Since we had this moment of like,
I don't believe a woman who's afraid that this guy's going to rape her would just leave him there with a weapon and not even take the weapon.
Yeah, he's already expressed like sexual interest in her boobies.
Said titties in mine.
Oh, did we not watch both on Netflix?
It did. It said titties on mine.
I'm pretty sure it said boobies on mine.
I don't believe you.
I'm team boobies, I guess. But yeah, what I was saying is, when we had that back and forth earlier in the film where Lars was tied up and she wasn't, we did get this sense of like, okay, they both had ideas for, how to cover up their crime, but they had different ways of thinking. Mm-hmm. But because hers was presented second, we did get this at least momentary thought of like, okay, maybe she's the smarter one. Even if she did end up doing something dumb in that scene, like leaving the knife, maybe at least balance it out with like one smart move, like maybe take something, restrain him in some way, do something smart. I know she was under pressure time because they would come down and check at some point, but throw something in there to at least make us, see.
Not roll the eyes.
Yeah, she's doing something.
And then we get just a bunch of very elaborate, very over the top, very gruesome and funny action set pieces where they keep fighting each other, they keep running away, there's a whole bunch of shenanigans happening there. The violence ensues, as I said.
The villains play up a lot of like slasher killer tropes where like they are just not going down.
And same with our heroes, they're not going down. They punch them so many times in the face and she keeps getting up, for instance. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, but like Roy takes a while to kill, and Peta especially. Yeah.
Oh, well, he's the final boss.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it has a lot going on. Then, if you don't mind, we get...
Should we jump back a bit?
Oh, well, where do you want to jump back to?
Depending on what you were about to bring up.
Well, I should say before I go there, my favorite physical comedy moment was when she got her head smashed through the pantry or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she grabbed like the lemon.
I'm surprised she didn't get knocked out.
And it's fine, they're thin. And she grabs the lemon thing and squirts him in the eyes. That was very silly. I enjoyed that a lot. But no, there's a reveal at some point in this movie. I know it's a bit later, but like at some point in the timeline while all this is going on, some old man.
Yeah, that's what I meant by jumping back a bit.
That just happens.
Oh, this old man, right.
This old man. The old man that calls the dad. Because there's a dad character we haven't really
that's what I meant by jumping back.
Lars has a dad that's in an old folks home and he doesn't want to go out this way. He would rather go out like a champion.
A lot of our exposition at the start of the film was Lars visiting his dad.
Setups and payoffs. This movie has a buttload of them. We get this old man who's riding this fucking little rinky-dink little plastic car.
I want to call it a smart car, but it's like half the size, maybe even a quarter of the size.
It looks like a sci-fi car from the 50s. Yeah, where they imagine
sci-fi caddy.
But he's riding around and he sees something happening. So he goes back and he has his phone with the big number pads on it. And you get like this ridiculous scene. Now, I should preface this. We get this information way later in the movie at the height of all the action where the bad guys are here, our heroes are going to be murdered. There's a surprise reveal that this person's now entered the scenario.
We had basically, once the home invasion started, we pretty much put aside all flashbacks to like this many hours before.
And we had also just taken it on the chin that no more characters would enter the film.
Yeah.
Because we've got them now. Wrong, because during all the height of the action, a car drives in, runs over the lead villain, who stumbles out, but Lars' dad.
Lars' dad, who's like, I love war. War made me who I am.
And
Young
then we get
suck.
a flashback to why he's here. This other old man saw this. We get this fucking really drawn out, quiet, inane, boring old people conversation at the height of the action, robbing all of the tension and momentum. And I was looking at it going, Bartek's loving it.
It was a full conversation of like, I was driving by the cabin because I needed to go get medicine from the pharmacy. You know, the pharmacy was very far away, but then I came back and realized,
this would have been David Lynch's favorite scene.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. I had the medicine in my cupboard all along, you see. That's why I'm calling. And the guys and dad's like, dude, why the fuck are you calling me in the middle of the night? Tell me this. And then they get on with it.
And then the dad is like, fine, I'll go out there. But the old folks home won't let him out. So then he proceeds to do what everyone else has done in the movie, which is just grab a thing and punch a person in the face with it.
Yep.
And then he proceeds to steal the guy's car and call it like a homosexual car.
Because it's an electric car, like smart car.
Yeah. And so then he has to go get it filled up with petrol because it's running out. And he starts making fun about how it's that, and then
it's like, where do I put the nozzle in? And it's like, it's an electric car. You have to go to an electric charging.
So there's a whole saga of him getting there. Now we're chewing up time in the height of the movie's dramatic points and resolutions, and then we get to where we are, where the dad comes in, and he gets fucked up, but he fucks up a lot of shit. That's the funny thing. The dad is also like a horror movie villain. He just won't go down. He just keeps getting back up. I liked when he bit off the villain's nose, and the villain's like, my nose, and the dad's like, what nose? that was a great moment.
The dad was very entertaining and didn't seem to fit in too much with the film that we were watching, but it was funny.
He came in like an action movie hero. That was the funniest part. Like the camera swooped in, the music swells. There's just this general presence of like, now Stallone is here. But it's like this old Norwegian man with crutches. It's very amusing.
Who wanted to die in the war and hates young people because they didn't fight in a war.
And so we get a whole bunch of action people die. Roy's already had his head exploded with a shotgun. Dave gets shot in the knee by the dad. I loved that. Where the dad just like, he's looking at this Dave guy, and the Dave guy's like, I'll cut her if you come close. And old man dad's like, I don't have time for this. Just does this badass thing with the gun, just shoots him in the
kicks
knee.
it up off the floor and says like, that's big words for a guy that is not the one with a gun.
Yeah, and then just shoots the guy in the knee, and it was awesome. Oh, it was so fucking good. I was so happy. And of course, the dad gets disposed of in a brief moment where he gets stabbed through and lifted up in the air, but then he's not down. He's got more in him.
He survived the lawnmower thing because...
Now, were you happy with this section? Because it seems like the middle parts where it's like, we'll play it a bit more straight, and then the final section's like, now let's get back to being goofy.
Once the sun comes out, because like most of that film is at night, and then once they go outside, it's suddenly daytime. Like once they're outside, it's pretty entertaining from that point on. Like we're not back at like the, clever premise, but we're also not at like the home invasion sneakiness things. It's just crazy kind of violence going on. And that was at least entertaining.
Did you love when she hit the lead villain with the bucket of fishing equipment stuff, and he had a bunch of the lures and fishing hooks stuck all over his face? I enjoyed that.
Yeah, he didn't take the time to take them out, and then later on...
That bit him. That bit him in the arse. He should have done that. He was too cocky.
He fell for it hook, line, and sinker.
People have value, and I guess those hooks added something to the world for him.
It made him scarier.
Yeah, it made him funnier. That's for sure. Dave gets killed at some point because he's tending to his knee and he keeps getting more horrific injuries trying to tend to his knee.
After he gets shot in the knee, he's basically like, comedic running joke of like, oh, he's limping, he's trying to heal himself, he keeps making mistakes and hurting himself.
Pour salt into the open wounds.
Yep. And then as soon as he's like, okay, I've healed and now I can rest, Lars is there with a gun, hits it, and it bends inwards.
Yep. And then he shoots him in his big dick because that was also established that he was like a horse dick.
Horse dick Dave.
That had a lot of names, Dave.
Homosexual Dave and horse dick Dave.
And then in the spoiler alert, they do a thing with like, and then they made a movie about this. And in that movie, he has a different name as well. I think it was like Gay Dave or something, Queer Dave.
The Hollywood film.
Fag Dave, I can't remember. But yeah, we get into the classic. Oh, the boat's been set up, so we've got to use the boat. And the bag of rocks has been set up, so we've got to use the bag of rocks. And that was all good. Like, it was solid fare of like you're delivering on the things you set up. It was thrilling. It was over the top. You had Lars grab the rope of the boat and just jet ski his way through and have to climb up. And you had a lot of the, and perhaps too much of the they're down, actually they're not moments.
Yeah, they recovered from a lot of injuries very quick. Once his arm was ripped off and he was still like fighting him off with one for a little while.
That was amusing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So overall, we're going into the defeating the villain stuff. So do you want to talk about that? Your overall opinions on taking down Petter? Yes.
Sorry, what question are you asking me?
You want to go over the general stuff that happens here and your overall opinions on it? Because this is we're now taking care of the big villain of the movie. He's no longer funny. Like, he has funny things happen to him, but he's played like, I'm a proper villain. There's no little comedic asides from that character anymore. He's no longer kind of goofy. He's a serious threat. So they have to take him out. What did you think about all of this?
I mean, yeah, I thought it was done well. We like I said before, he's kind of got the slasher movie villain thing going on where, he's kind of invincible and you need to like really do something big to take him down, because tearing off his arm, the fish hooks to the face, getting hit by a car, all of that's not enough. So you got to get to something extreme. And like you said, this is a movie of payoffs. So some of the setups that even I was forgetting about, like the rocks, were finally being used. And it was good.
Where they put him over the bag over his neck and throw him over the boat, and he only has one arm and he can't get the bag off.
Yeah, so I was thinking to myself, like, oh, well, he probably has some ability to swim, but he's only got one arm, so it's going to be very difficult for him.
Even if he used that one arm to try and take the bags off, he would still sink. So, very funny.
Yeah, and of course, then we also got the scene we were talking about earlier where Lars was tied up to it and he was sinking. So the wife had the decision of like, am I going to save you or am I not? And like I said already, that was effective. So
you had a really great conversation as well that came after that, where it's just them sitting there and Lars going through like, do we get back together? Like, it was still in this, like them two just going over their marriage and how it's still a mess. What does this really do to change anything?
Like, police will be here in an
hour. We've got debts. We've got, your acting career is struggling. Like, nothing has changed. And then they looked at us, specifically you and I, Bartek. This movie looked at us in the eyes and said, "Soviet dinosaur." Where when we did our Soviet Western play, our play's ending was they just pitched, "Let's do a movie," and then they show a little clip of the movie that they do. That's what we did.
Yeah, well, we saw because obviously the movie that they were going to make was going to be based on an in-universe true story. So we see all like the newspaper headlines, the talk show appearances, the interviews right after the incident happened at night where like it's raining and they're covered in towels.
We can see her with her normal hair.
Yeah, they're like miming like, oh, this happened. And like they became, super celebrities who like they survived the thing. And then we get a tease of like, and it's going to be adapted into a Hollywood film with Hollywood actors. and then we actually get to see, like, some Americans playing the characters.
And her playing herself, but she's speaking English, and that's where I laugh, because now she's playing roles that Noomi Rapace plays.
Yeah. And we see, basically a comedic version of that super serious scene partway into the film.
And then cut. That's exactly how it happened, everyone. Like, Lars is directing.
And the guy playing Lars is...
a big buff black guy.
Which I think it was in the IMDb trivia said that, like, oh, that was Netflix poking fun at itself for its, racially blind casting or something.
Yeah, that was an amusing little detail. I enjoyed that. A weird thing to point to, and I'm now rewinding. I'm so sorry.
Yep.
What? Okay, we had a neo-Nazi in the film, and he kept making statements about Lisa, but he never made statements. Like, he kept saying, like, "I know what you are," and he's like, "Are you gonna say it? Are you gonna say it? Like, I don't like." Was he insinuating that she's a Jew? Because he showed the tattoos, and he's like, my kind don't like you. I was like, how do you know anything about this woman?
Yeah, I was confused by a lot of that too. I thought it was he doesn't like entertainment industry people?
Swedish people, because she is Swedish. They set that up. I'm like, oh, but because I immediately was like, oh, she's a Jew, right? Because he's a neo-Nazi. And he's like, my tattoos say I don't like people like you. And the whole back and forth. And there's even this moment where he's just like, you. And she's like, you what? You fucking. And then he proceeded never to say anything else. And I'm like, I was waiting for him to say, you fucking, Jew or some slur or something.
See,
and I was waiting, and then I was like, oh, well, is Noomi Rapace Jewish? And I couldn't find anything.
See, there was never
of the Romani people, so maybe it's like that. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't recall any point in the film establishing that she's Jewish. So whenever he had, these mixed feelings about her, I was also weighing it up in my head of like, oh, but he's interested in her breasts. He's like got some sexual attraction to her.
She's a hot woman.
Yeah. So whenever he did have a statement of like, oh, I inherently don't like you, I was legitimately thinking like actresses, like people that are well off.
And if it is what I'm thinking, why are they withholding that?
Well, he eventually, like when she was doing the best acting I've ever seen in my life, one of his last lines is there's like, but you're a Jew. And then that was the reveal to me. It wasn't meant to be a reveal, I guess, because it was established he's a neo-Nazi. But
when did he say that?
You remember?
You
remember when Lars was going down the stairs, sneaking up, and she was like acting. It was like, I was thinking, and like he's clearly like, is this really happening? Is this? And then one of his last lines before he notices Lars is like, but you're a Jew.
Man,
I swear to you, he says this.
I swear I missed this.
This is the only reason.
Did I watch the titties cut and you watched the boobies cut?
I swear to you, like this is the only reason
I'm
why.
To sit down and watch this scene again because I swear I missed it. And again,
that line is literally the only reason why I know he's got a problem with her for being a Jew.
I will say this too: the film. I don't know about you. If you have an opinion on this, the Netflix subtitles pretty wonky in places. Just sometimes the way, because this film has text in it.
Yeah.
Just the way that they would have to have subtitles, and it's like it's over the text. It's very clunky. Like, for instance, I don't know if this happened on the boobies cut, but it was like, here's the title of the movie, and it just showed the title like that they have in the movie. It didn't give me like a translation title in the subtitles. I was
okay, because it did for me.
It did not for me. I did not adjust anything. I just played it as is.
Yeah, I think there was one time where it didn't translate something, like near the end. There was like 3 lines with these 3 words, and I never found out what it said. I think it meant like, a few days later or something like that.
But okay, Netflix, whatever you're doing, I don't know what you're doing here, but yeah, that was just weird that they're withholding it, even if it was what you said. And I'll take your word, and we'll see afterwards. Why? Why is this a reveal? How does he know this?
That was my thing. That's the only reason why I know he's got a problem with her being a Jew is because I saw that line.
How does he, like, if maybe he saw when they're up in the roof something about her that was Jewish, like maybe she has like I'm trying to think of things, but oh well, she's apparently Jewish to this. I guess he has a nose for it. I guess he's a neo-Nazi, so I guess that's how it works. But would you recommend this? Would you recommend the trip?
I got enough entertainment out of it that I say I would recommend it. Yeah, I'd say so.
I recommend it too. It's a little bit rough around the edges. It's a little bit of a Shaggy Dog type movie. Not literally the Shaggy Dog. That stars Tim Allen.
Yeah.
And Robert Downey Jr.
That's right.
Right before Iron Man. So, yeah, I recommend it. It's fun. It's goofy. It's a lighthearted time. Whilst also having some really interesting shifts in tone. It can be a bit daunting at times, but overall I found it goofy. It was violent.
That middle scene where it got serious is kind of trigger warning worthy, I'd say.
But then they comedically subvert it at the very end of the movie when they have the Netflix movie version, Hollywood version, where they redo that scene and then he does this amazing, the movie version does this amazing action sequence to get out of it, and he's a big buff black guy. So over the top. So it almost was worth it all. But I recommend it. Bartek, you're recommending a movie for next time on Spooky Month.
Yes, I am.
For Pictures Powwow. What are you pitching our way?
Yes, so one of the reasons why I was comparing our villain Peta to a slasher movie villain is because I'm picking a slasher movie.
Okay.
So as we know, in the 80s is when they became very popular. And I'm picking one that I don't think many people have heard of. It's a film from 1980 called Friday the 13th or something like that.
You recommend the first one?
The original Friday the 13th.
Oh, good. I'm sure Alex from the Contrarians podcast will be thrilled to hear what we have to say because he's a big fan. Of course he is.
I didn't know.
You've met him? Of course he is. Of course he is.
Okay.
Of course. Of course. Halloween is the preferred franchise for him, but of course. Okay, Friday the 13th, the one without Jason. Awesome.
Spoiler, Ryan.
So sorry. And also one where they in real life killed an animal for it, but awesome.
I didn't know that.
Have fun. Have fun watching that sequence. All right, Friday the 13th, starring people. I cannot wait. I think I've seen this. I'm trying to recollect. I know I've seen some.
I've seen
they blur together.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about Friday the 13th, but it will not come out on the 13th.
No.
And I don't know if Friday this year is on the 13th, but
no.
Nope. Not here in Australia.
The 13th is the day after this episode comes out.
Oh, well, soz, everybody. You can find us on your social medias of Facebook and Twitter. Say soz to us right there. Or email us a soz at spitandpolished@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can recommend movies to us. Let us know what spooky things you're watching this time of year. What are you watching? What are you looking at? What are giving you the thrills, the chills, the spooks, and all of that good stuff. Bartek, pleasure talking to you about a Norwegian film, our first Norwegian film.
Yeah, there was no way I was expecting that.
Wow. He said it, I didn't.
Because the country's called Norway.
It's called Norway.